parts of New Zealand, and what are we doing irrigation-wise?
Well, up until the end of last week, up until sort of the Friday, Saturday last week, we were getting very close to pushing the switch. In fact, I taught a workshop for the North Otago Irrigation Company last Tuesday, and Tuesday a week ago, 10 days ago, and yeah, coming back, I thought, we've had 3 or 4 days in the northwest. I'll see some irrigators going. They were going. Of course, you know, it's early September, and we've had 3 days in the northwest, so it has to have just completely dried out, and they had fired up. I'm not sure why. And then later, about 2 or 3 days later, I come across the top of the plains, and there's centre pivots going everywhere. So we were getting close. We were not that close. We were still a week to 10 days away from actually having to push the switch. And then the rain that has occurred in this last 4 or 5 days, even in Canterbury, has pushed everything back to field capacity again. So there's no need to even think about irrigating properly for the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Just keep monitoring though.
Just keep monitoring. You need, and you need to make some objective decisions, not subjective decisions about irrigating. You're right about it being cold. We had just, by the time the rain came at the end of last week, we had just got to the point where we'd got above 10 degrees we got to 10 degrees at about 9 o'clock in the morning. Up until then, we were getting above 10 degrees C, but it was not until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So you spent very little time above that threshold for everything to grow. So we'd got very close to irrigating, and of course the forecast is still for some significant rain for the rest of this week, and particularly in Canterbury. And the North Islands, just east coast of North Island's been pasted. Yep. They were very, very close to irrigating as well. We had a lot of places in the North Island where we were, especially pastures, that we were very close to pushing the switch, but you know, they've had more than they need.
Yeah, actually. They have. I mean, they've got flooding. So.
Yeah, I mean, we needed a 30mm rain, and they've had 100 to 120mm. So, yep. They've had more than their share. They've actually had some pretty good, in some places now, some really good rainfall recharge to groundwater. You know, when you needed 30, you've got 4 times that. So you've got 3/4 of that's gone straight on the flat areas, gone straight back into the groundwater system, which is great for the irrigation season.
Right. Yep. Bottom line is though, it's still very cold. There's snow down to lowish levels.
Yes.
So just back right off.
Back right off. It's really interesting. We got temperatures up to nearly, in Canterbury, we got temperatures up to nearly 12 degrees end of last week. We're now back under 8 degrees, peak of 8 degrees. So it's going to now take us another week or so to actually off really nice fine weather, to get those soil temperatures back up again.
But there's still a whole lot of lows all around the place. And,
it's
you know, Australia's under all sorts of stress.
So just be really cognizant of irrigating at this time of the year. Last year, lots of people ran out of annual volume everywhere, not just in Canterbury, but elsewhere where annual volumes are on the east coast, eastern areas, where you've got a limited amount of water you can use. Ran out of annual volumes. We need to be very careful about irrigating in the shoulders. This is the shoulder season. There is not high demand for irrigation at the moment. Growth rates aren't all that great. We've barely got to 30 kilograms of dry matter per day, which is very, very low. So there's nothing really demanding irrigation at this stage of the season.
Is it a really late spring, or is it just?
Oh, it's about what I think is about average. You know. It's September. We have to remember this is September.
Yeah, but it's late September now.
Yeah, but it is still September. We haven't reached the equinox, or we have just reached the equinox. It's now that we start to see the real changes take place. Once you exceed that 12 hours daylight and nighttime, and solar radiation is starting to catch up, you've got to remember that while day length, we see changes in day length quite quickly, we don't notice the changes in solar radiation. That's the radiation that comes in and makes things grow and warms things up. There is a lag in that compared to day length. So we're just starting to see solar radiation get on the increase. And the equinox is sort of the time where that is really starting to ramp up. So it's from now on, it's heading into that first week of October, that we will really start to see things happen.
Because, you know, you look at the trees and they're only just starting to bud up.
Yeah, yeah. But if you look around at things like, if you go into the central Otago, for example, all the cherries and all the apricots are in full bloom. They're busy frostbiting. So it's you know, it's not that cold. These things have burst into flower. Look around and look at you know, look at plum trees, for example. Those early stone fruit things. They've all flowered even in Canterbury. So and of course the North Island's done and dusted when it comes to that. So especially the eastern part of the North Island is done and dusted when it comes to those sorts of things. So, you know, it's a little bit colder than what we've probably been used to in the last couple of years in September, but you know, it is September, it is the first month of spring, it is a volatile time of the year as far as weather is concerned, and we've got a whole lot of things that need to happen for things to really warm up, and the key one is getting the solar radiation input. That's what comes in. It takes time for it to arrive from the sun, and we need that to ramp up to really kick things into gear.
The other thing, excuse me, the other thing, Tony, is that a pump that's not actually going doesn't cost you much.
That's right. If you're not pumping water, then it's money in the bank. And the cheapest irrigation we have is the rainfall, and we've had a 20 to 40 millimetre rainfall last week. We've predicted to get a bit more this week. Doesn't cost you a cent for that rainfall.
Exactly, so we'll use that in the meantime.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much indeed.